Alright guys, so the next project for the GTO before it goes to the tuner is the trans cooler. Because it's getting the bigger trans, it's going to need the extra cooling power, and the factory one's just not going to do it. So we're going to be putting in this one. It's a B&M super cooler. Should be more than enough for now. But I do plan in the future to do one with a fan on it, so that way it just stays cooler. Because the more cooling that you take onto it, the better it does. So the reason why I went with this one is if you take a look at it, it's just really beefy. It's really nice, like well put together. And I've had other ones in the past that just they look really cheap. They don't look like they're going to hold up. So I'm going with this one for now. It should hold up fine to what I need. So included in this, you have the trans cooler. You get some hose, which is probably not going to be enough, but I do have extra hose, so I don't have to worry about it. And then you get a bag of fittings, clips, mounting brackets, worm screws, just about everything you need. Now, what it does come with are these fittings. These ones are meant to screw into the trans, or not the trans, the radiator. And one goes into the radiator, one goes into the return line, so that way you can just hook it up, the hose to these, and you don't have to do anything custom with it. The problem is that with the GTOs, it has a metric size instead of a standard size. So naturally, these fittings don't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a tubing cutter. So we're going to take the line that's going out of the transmission, or out of the radiator, going back to the transmission. We're going to cut that line. What a lot of people do is they'll cut the rubber hose and then use barb fittings like this to put the hose on. But the problem is when you just use the barb fittings, they can blow off. They, like the worm gear or the worm clamps, they loosen up, they blow off, and then you get trans fluid everywhere, and you risk, damaging your trans. And for how much I'm paying for mine, I'm not willing to risk that. So what we're going to do is, like I said, with this, we are going to cut the actual metal line that's returning to the trans from the radiator. And then, on top of that, we are then going to use this. This is a kit that I got from AutoZone, and it's a flaring kit. It's mostly used for brake lines and stuff like that, but what we're going to do is we're going to use it to create that flare on the end, so that when we tighten down the rubber ends, when we put the hose onto it, it has less chance of it slipping off over time or under pressure or anything like that. So we're going to flare those ends. I'm going to do that, and we're going to do it the right way, the way it should be done. And yeah, so I'm going to take you along and we're going to get started on that. Alright guys, we're down in the garage. We're going to get started on the trans cooler. First thing we need to do is take off the front bumper. Varies for each car, but for the GTOs, it's going to be these 3 screws on top. And then you have these 2 on the front in each wheel well. And that's all that it is. It comes right off. Alright guys, we got the front bumper off. As you can see, it's off. So now what we need to do is we're going to remove this air intake, so the air box, the piping, and then the line is going to be right there. So anything that's in the way of that, we're going to have to take off. So let's get to it. Alright guys, so we got everything out of the way, and so the next thing that we need to do is cut the line. So I put some pig mat underneath. As you can see, I got pig mat underneath. We're going to cut this line right here, and we're going to use that line cutter tool. Alright, so the way this tool works is it gets put on top of the line and you turn it and twist it, and it'll close down on the line as you're turning it around. That way the little blade on the inside there will cut little by little all around that tube. Okay, so now all we're going to do is going to keep turning it around this line. And every few passes, we're just going to turn this just a little bit to clamp it down more. And eventually, it'll cut right through. Alright, and eventually you'll cut through. You'll get a nice clean cut on both ends. So next step is to pull that off so we can flare that end of the line, and then we'll be flaring that end later. Alright guys, so my camera decided it wasn't going to save some of the videos that I recorded last night, so I'm going to kind of play a little catch up with you guys so you can see what I've done so far. Everything's finished, so just going to show you. So this line right here, that's the return line out of the radiator. So we have the return line coming up and going, look at my light, down into the bottom of the cooler. The reason why we want to do that is the fluid will rise up through the cooler and spend more time in there and getting us cooler trans fluid. So then it comes out, and that's this line comes out and goes into this, which is the return to the transmission. So that's all it is. So you just flare the ends of the fittings, put the rubber hoses on, double clamp every hose, and then the only other thing is just mounting the trans cooler, which I already did there. So it's already mounted, ready to go, and then after that all you need to do is fill it with trans fluid and you're ready to go, and you got your trans cooler in, and it'll help out with trans temps and heat, keep the heat off of it, and which is definitely needed when you're running a stall or anything like that that's going to cause more heat to the transmission. So that's it. I'm sorry the videos got messed up, but everything else I'm going to try and keep up and do like how-tos and walkthroughs and all that. So, all right, thanks guys.